Well, happy Friday, everyone. I am in Portland, Oregon, and it is sunny here. And so I'm excited that it's Friday and the sun's out. Hey, today we have a very special, a very fun session. It's my top 10 tricks and tips. So it's going to be like a little bit different than the other ones if you've attended one of the ones in the past. So it's going to be quick. I'm not going to dig deep in the software. I'm going to show you just enough so that you can understand kind of the point and the tip. So if you have any follow-up questions, like you didn't really understand it, please go ahead and send me an email and we can, really slow down and go through the details. So let's get started. Let's get to it. All right, so welcome. For those that don't know me, my name is Chris Parker. I am the official results trainer support onboarding person. So in the corner of Milo, our little bot, so you can send me a message there or send me an email. I'm here to support you. These sessions are short and to the point, half hour in and out. So again, I'll try to take some questions. I have my colleague, Aaron Howard, is my monitor. He's looking if anyone has a question, you can send it to chat. Aaron, you want to just say hello and greet everyone?
Indeed, yes. Hello, everybody, and thank you, by the way, for joining. And if you do have a question, I'll be monitoring for it, and we'll either answer it or get it to Chris. Thanks, Chris.
Okay. All right, thanks. So let's get to it. So my quote for the day, I always like to start out with something kind of fun, is since this is tips and tricks, this is the tip of our iceberg. And the charts and the dashboards is really the tip of this engine with that result sits on. So there's a whole bunch of functionality that we're going to talk about and uncover. And let's get started. So the way I'm going to work it is that I'm going to go through my top 10 and just really talk about them. And then I'm going to flip over to results. I'm going to kind of, hit how to do everything in the software. So some of the things on my top 10 are really underutilized pieces of results that I really want to point out the power. And number one is it, inactive measures. I see a lot of my clients worried about perfection related to their measures, right? You're spending all this time developing them. Like, embrace being uncomfortable. You can always turn your measures off and you can use them for just a short amount of time. So if you have a need for a measure for 6 months, 9 months, go ahead, set it up in results, use it, report on it, and then when you're done with that project or that special initiative, then you turn it off and it's inactive. You can always turn it back on. So encourage you to embrace short-term metrics in a sense, okay? My second tip is to maximize the power user role. Okay, I know many of you that are on the call right now are my administrators. You need help, okay? Don't have it all be on your shoulders. So power user role is like a junior admin. They are assigned a specific map to be the administrator for so that they can do all those edit capabilities. But there's more. A power user can manage a specific tool category where they can upload templates, and they can also manage a group. So I'll show you how to do all that in results. My third tip is understanding and taking some time to understand your system setting admin page. Okay, so I'm going to profile a few things. Okay, under system settings, you have your default chart view. So when you launch results, what is the date range you want all your charts to show? Okay, you might have a special meeting coming up where you want to look at a specific time frame. Go ahead, change your default, have your meeting, and then you can flip it back to one of the other settings. So actively use those. The other thing is that when you feel like most of your measures are up and running, you can set up reminders to your measure owners to whatever time frame you want. So if you want only people that have measures that are 10 days overdue to get a reminder, you can set up those auto reminders. And third, under system settings, is there's that little bulletin board, and I'm going to make sure you understand how you can use that. Okay. Number 4 is related to groups. So y'all know you have all groups, my groups. The purpose of groups, this is, I think, one of those underutilized pieces, is that groups can help support specific targeted conversations. So if you have I know several of you use it to say, well, what are the measures we're going to review for a business meeting? Okay, so set up a group. It's my February business review meeting, and then you can set one up for March and April. So then you have a nice history of what did we talk about in February, March, and then April. Or you might have a specific strategic initiative, okay? Maybe you create a custom group related to that, okay? So be creative and really think through how can we help support the conversations that need to happen, and that might give you some ideas. Number 5 is also kind of thinking through that creativity, is to be creative on your measures, okay? There's the traditional ones of how many applications did we process? How many errors? How much revenue did we have? Okay, but there's other ways of approaching your measures that you should consider. For instance, you can set up a measure. I call them my 3-state measures. So I have, I just want a project manager, for instance, to swag whether they have any concerns about the measure. So like a risk measure. So if they want to flag it to red, they can input 80. If they think it's in the yellow, they could put 60, and green, they could put 30, or flip it either way. But I call those the 3-state measures. You can also set up a metric on % completed. So if you have a strategic initiative and there's not really a hard metric that you can measure, an important thing is that you just want to track the progress of the work, you can set up a % complete measure. So think about your metrics and not just the hard data ones like revenue, number of applications, volume, quality, but think about what else, can we help support those conversations, and be creative. And again, once you're done with them, you can turn them off and make them inactive. Okay, so that's the top 5. Let's go to the next one. Oops, sorry, go down a page down. Okay, number 6, okay? We spend a lot of time working on our targets and thresholds, okay? But then what I often see is that the measure owners, they just let them be stagnant, okay? Dig into those target and thresholds, okay? Why not raise the bar? Why not lower the bar if your initial thoughts on your targets and thresholds were off, okay? Actively manage them. Okay, you know that results allows you to keep that history. You set up a new target, a new threshold with new effective dates. Actively use them, take advantage of that. Okay, number 7, also another great part of results that's being underutilized, action plans. Okay, every organization, you can have a different approach. Like you can just be like, what is the one thing that we're working on related to this area? Okay, it can be a targeted continuous improvement lean, like we were looking for the root cause, but maybe we're just doing a process map and trying to understand it, right? So use it, put in the date of the action, okay, so that you can, again, communicate great information to your leadership. Okay, number 8, performance plans. And this is only for my enterprise clients. So if I have any of my Team Pro, this is not a functionality available to you. But for all metrics related to a continuous improvement or a strategic initiative, you should be using the performance plan, okay, where you set up a start date and end date. Is it a 2-year period, a 3-year period, right? And what does the improvement path look like? Okay, so that it's not a flat target or a threshold. You're actively trying to drive it to that future state value that you want. Okay, the other thing about performance path is that you can set up performance path, and there's a couple other bells and whistles there. You can set up a secondary performance path, like a more aggressive growth target, and you can retain your original scorecard targets and threshold. So you can go back and forth. The system, once you set it up, it retains that information. So it allows you to flip back and forth without losing that work. So again, take advantage of it. Number 9 is related to projects. Whether it's just a typical PMO type project, launching a new program. You have a lean event, process improvement on a metric. You have a strategic initiative. Really think about using the project functionality. There's some great things there that I want to really point out. The ability to tag it to a specific goal, the ability to relate your metrics to your activity work, to tag the actual map of where it sits in the organization. And then through number 10, my top 10 tip is to really think about visualizations, right? So for those that are the administrators, it's really kind of, I think, falling on you to really kind of point out, this is a database and we have lots of pieces in here. We have metrics, we have the projects, we have the goals. Like, how can we take your database and make some really cool visualizations so that you can uncover the insights? Okay, and I'm going to show you a few of those and give you a couple tips of how to get started on visualizations. So now let's take this top 10 list and I'm going to walk you through, for those that don't know some of the functionality, I'm going to show you how to do some of this stuff. So I'm going to move over to my results. Okay, so tip number 1 was related to inactive measures. Okay, so I imagine that most of us can recall that each of our metrics, so if I go into 1, we have the ability under the measure owner or the admin to turn measures off. Okay, so you can turn your whole map off, you can turn off metrics, and you can turn off processes. Now, what you might not know is that once you turn off the metric, only the admins can see it on the admin page. But the rest of you can do hashtag inactive type, and you can get that quick list of all those metrics. So now when I go over here, I can see that I have turned these 14 measures off. Now, I am an admin. From the screen though, it does not allow me to turn it back on. Okay, I have to go through the formal pathway of admin manage map to turn that metric on. Okay, so that would simply going over to the admin manage map page. Okay, going to any of the maps that have that, where that inactive measure is, and then flipping it on to active. Okay, now if I turn any of my, this is kind of bonus, right? If I turn any of my maps inactive, I can do that here. Okay, but I see I already have a measure there, so it won't let me turn it off because I have an active measure. So again, don't be afraid of setting up maps and measures, because we have a quick way of turning them inactive. You can easily search for them and reset them up. So number 2, maximizing that power user role. So let's talk about that. So a individual that is a power user. So here I have I'm in my demo tenant, so I conveniently have someone called power user here. Okay, an individual can be a power user for one map. Okay, so I see here that I am, if I were to be logged in as the power user, I can make edits to this MPI level 1 map. Okay, so regardless of whether I'm the measure owner or the data steward, I can do all the setup duties for that. Okay, so when I would log in, I would only see that map under my list as the power user to edit. Okay, so they're a great kind of support for you if you're the admin, and get you as the admin set up the map, and then you assign it to that person and they're off and running. What you might not recall is that your power user can also help you related to groups. So if I go to my group page, okay, and I want to set up groups, okay, so I'm going to expand that. I might have a new group that I might say, I have a new group and I'm going to call it, let's see, rename it, I'm going to call it engagement. We have a special engagement campaign going on and we want to set up a custom group. Now, I am the admin, I set up that group, and I'm going to delegate the management of that group to my power user, okay? And whoops, so you can go ahead and create that person there, set them up, and then they can go ahead and manage it. The same is true under tools, okay? And you can have that power user, they can be in charge of 3, 4, 10 groups, right? There's no limit. The only limit for a power user is 1 map. They can manage as many groups or as many tool categories as you want. So same sort of thing, I can go ahead and I could create a, I'll create a new one, and I'll just call this template. I'll call this templates. Okay, and I can assign it to my power user, and then they're in charge of, moving and loading whatever templates they feel is most helpful for the finance team. So again, extend your support there so you don't get overloaded, so that you can do the highest added value. So system settings, tip number 3. So again, I'm going to go to admin, and this is only an admin functionality, is that last one, system settings. It's one that often is overlooked. You can see here, this is where you would upload an image, your logo, some things there. The ones that I want to talk and really point out is the default chart views. Okay, see what works for your organization. Okay, you could have all your charts default on today's, the last value, or custom. Okay, so if I wanted to do it for today's date, I would simply put today and hit save. Now the benefit of that, and this is kind of like a personal preference. So if I went to my data and I went and looked at my charts, okay, they all show for March 11th. So if I'm behind on my data, okay, like this one, I can notice it here. Okay, so they all line up really nicely. Now, if I wanted to, and I go back to system settings, okay, and I do last value and hit save. And this applies to your whole database. So you can't customize it per user. Everyone will see the same. So you have to understand that. Then it profiles the last time a data point, right? So there's not that blank space there. So this one I'm behind. Last time I entered data was October 1st. This one was June 30th. Okay, so you can see the difference. And option number 3 is that for those that might want to say, we always want, if I do custom, I can say, well, let's, we really want to just focus on this current calendar year. So I can actually go ahead and do a future date here and say all of our charts will open up. The opening view, you can always, adjust each particular one. Okay. And I can go ahead now and see that date range that I put in there. Okay, now you can see here there's no values found here, but I know there's data in because it tells me here. So you can see kind of the pros and cons, but then when I went into my large chart, okay, it allows me to make that adjustment. So if I need to say, well, let's gonna go back and refresh, and I can see the data, right? So it's just the opening view for the system settings. So that's tip number 2, related to system setting, or actually tip number 1. Tip number 2 is related when you feel like you're ready and your measure owners have their data in and you want to start being more, intentional on getting their data in, you can enable the auto reminders. So I have it, most of you are, the default is disabled. When you want to turn them on, you do enable. And I said, I want a measure to be 10 days, like the data is 10 days late. Okay, so I set it there and then I hit save. So then the measure owner and the data steward would get a reminder that your data is due. Now I know some of my clients have a long lag time between when the data might be ready. So you just have to be mindful of striking that balance of, when do you want the reminders to go out? And the reminders go out twice a week. So it's not like they would get a reminder every day. So pointing that out. Now the last one is the system message. So I can go ahead and I'm going to add some more detailed good morning, team, and then hit save. So where the system message shows as a little reminder, okay, is this right here. So if you wanted to put any tips or reminders, obviously it becomes a little bit of that change management. If you wanted to put reminders here, you're just promoting any announcements. When you log in, you can go ahead and take a look there. So think about how you can use that to kind of spread knowledge and use of results. Number 4, groups. So let's talk about groups. We have the all groups, okay? The first tip is reminding you about all groups versus my groups. And the my groups would be any of the ones that I have highlighted in green. Okay, so if I turn those on, I go back to my groups. Okay, I only see the ones that I am following. So that following, that tagging, bookmarking, but I can always go to all groups. So that's tip number one. Tip number two is to really kind of be creative. What additional groups can you add, right? So if I wanted to, I know some of you already do this, I can say maybe I have my April team review, okay, and we have 30 measures, and I just wanted to have a a quick, we're only going to talk about 3 measures, so it's super fast, right? I can quickly come over here, right, add my metrics, boom, boom, boom. Those are the metrics we're going to talk about in this meeting, and we're off and running. So it kind of really helps the team focus on just the metrics that are on the agenda for review. And then if you don't need it, you come back and you basically just, delete the group. So it's a short-term group, and no harm, and it was fast to create. Measures. Let's talk about how to be creative on measures. So I'm going to go over to my data, and I'm going to show you a couple that I want to profile. Is related to 3 state metrics. So I have already set up this one, launch of new software. I have a risk metric, okay, and I have set this up so that the project manager that's assessing the risk, I'm not setting up a target. It's all, you always want risk to be green by default, right? But basically, if we want to tag that there's a risk, my project manager can put in 30. If they're thinking, maybe there's some concerns, we're monitoring the risk, I would put in 60. And if there's no issues at all related to here, I would put in 80. Okay. I can say, well, how often does my project manager need to report on it? Well, monthly. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you the chart. Okay. Here it is, right? So here's the red risk, yellow, green. Now, obviously, let me go back to my data, the ideal state is that when you go in here, if there is a risk, I need to change, let me go back and change my chart. See, this is the downside of that setting. I'm going to go for today's date. Let's go last value. Is that you want to put the comments in, right? So 3-state measure, especially on something like risk or schedule or scope, is very effective, especially when you can put your comments in. So if I come over down to my risk metric here, right? If there were comments here about how we got this back on track, knowing that it used to be yellow or red, that's really helpful. The next one I'm going to show you is a % complete. Okay, I actually did this in that I combined 2 things. I did a % complete design on this metric, and I'm using my performance path. So I'm starting this new piece of work. It's obviously starting out at 0% complete. I started at the beginning of the year, and this project has a timeline of almost basically a couple years. Okay, so I can see that most of the work happens in the first 5 months of the project. Okay, it's going to be almost to 50%, and then it's the rest of the work takes a little bit longer, slower progress on it. I can establish my thresholds of what % off my target completion I want to flag as yellow or red. Okay, so I've done that with that dotted line. So again, being creative on that is really helpful. The last thing to point out is just in about the last year or so, we launched this other metric called Fractional Metrics. So let me go back to my first one here, employee engagement. Think about your metrics. When is it important for you to understand if it's a percentage or a rate that you want to track your denominator? So again, thinking outside and expanding how you want to view your metrics. So you can actually track your numerator and denominator. So encourage you, be creative, think about it, have fun with it. All right, number 6 is really about those targets and thresholds. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go back over here and show you a different screen. I have one metric that I have done a little bit of that management. So let me go put you in chart view. Okay, so here you can see here where, we're starting to get it on track. So we went ahead and we adjusted our targets and thresholds. Okay, you could keep your target the same and only adjust your threshold. You don't have to do both at the same time. It's for you to decide. And just as a reminder, right, you go in, this is for the admin or the measure owner. Data stewards do not have access to the editing of this. Is you simply come down, right, and you put in a new effective date. You can even decide, I can say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and already plan out the rest of my year, right? I can say by this date, I want to be at 140. And then maybe by September, I want to go even higher on my targets, right? So you can really kind of plan out, a whole year, whole 2 years of how you want your targets. So it's kind of like a performance path, but it's, again, being more intentional, doing the same thing on your metrics or on your thresholds as well. Okay, so encourage you admins, encourage your measure owners, right? What is going on? What's the target? Do we need to adjust our targets and thresholds? Results makes it really easy to do that. Number 7, how many of you are using action plans? I know it's a big lift to get your metrics stood up, but think about, if it's in red, wouldn't it be great if all of the metrics have a little indicator to say that an action plan's been uploaded? Okay, so for those that are new to results, just a little reminder is that the measure owner or the admin can do that. They can replace, remove, upload that. So your rest of your users just only can view the action plan. Now, what I encourage you to do is that you actually put in a date here as a reference point. So when I log in and if I'm the leader and I want to say I'm going to view that action plan, but when did, I look at my chart and say, well, when did that action, get implemented? So then I can study and say, is it making a difference? Okay, and that's super easy. All it is a replace. You put in your date there before you upload your file, and you could adjust it as often as you want. The really fun thing is that in the dashboard, we can use that piece of information. Okay, we can filter and sort on which measures have action plans and what are those implementation dates. So again, encourage you to use the functionality that's at your fingertips. All right, performance path. So I know there's a few of my clients that they put all of their metrics in performance path. They attach it related to their fiscal budget, and that's how they manage it. Others only put performance path in when they are related to their strategic initiative. So everyone's a little different, but encourage you to give it some consideration. So let me walk you through some of the functionality to kind of get you excited about it. Let me first show you what is a performance path for those that it's new. Okay, so down here, okay, is a performance path. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go in because I see I'm running out of time, and I apologize for those that need to drop off, but I guess I'm having too much fun here. Performance path. You can display a secondary path and you can flip back and forth. So let me show you what that looks like, because I have set up 2 different performance paths. Okay, and let's take a look at that. Okay, so I can see I have a very aggressive performance improvement path. Okay, and I have a more conservative approach. So I can kind of study what that looks like. But then if I want, okay, you know what, this measure actually started out as a scorecard metric. I can go back and now look at it in that mode. So you can set it up both ways, and you can kind of, depending upon the need, you can go in the meeting and the conversation, maybe one's more important. Number 9, projects. So let's go back to projects. Okay, and I'm going to just point out a few things that I think are really cool. So under projects, you have the basic, right? This is the executive summary. This is, helping your leadership understand what the work is that we're doing. I can relate it to different parts of the organization, relate it to different metrics. I can go right here to the chart. Okay, I can actually see my status notes. But here, I think this one is really cool. Being able to understand we have a strategic goal. What is the work under that strategic goal? Okay. Then that leads us to our last fun bit is our dashboards. So let me now flip over and show you a few things that I think you should get really excited about. How cool is it to look at your whole database, set it to whatever time frame you want and understand, are the measures improving or declining? Okay. Then being able to hover over that and actually have the chart pop up. Okay. And dig into it. So again, right, taking all that information that's going into results and kind of feeding it. Let's not forget about a unit, right? Maybe they want a pick 6, a pick 4. And I know some of my clients have a lot of these, so great work on jumping ahead. Now let's talk about our dashboards and our strategic initiatives, right? How many things do we have underway? How are the overall health of our strategic initiatives? Which ones are on plan, behind plan, right? Giving a snapshot like this to your leadership, right? How many phone calls do they have to do to get this information? Okay. Then being able to take a look and say what related to a specific goal, how many projects, initiatives are underway, and what is the status of them? Okay. How about putting your projects into a Gantt chart, right? Super helpful. Okay. How about looking at your metrics and doing some comparison? Workforce satisfaction, maybe you did an employee engagement and looking at which units in your organization and comparing and contrasting to them to an overall average. Okay. How about digging in if you have a call center, right? And being able to dig in and see over a calendar year, what does the volume look like? And which center is getting hit more, and what is the percentage of our satisfaction, right? All really, really great stuff. So I'm going to go back now and just say a few things on, for those that are interested on those dashboards, how to get started. Reflect on your information needs. Okay, what questions is your leadership and your middle managers, your teams needing, right? And help them design measures. Okay, think about the activities that contribute or not to your outcomes. And you're doing a lot of work, but is it making a difference? So being able to do a visualization on the outcome, looking at all the process measures to see maybe we're not doing the right thing. We're focused on the wrong thing because our outcomes aren't changing. Okay, so for those that are interested, speak to your admins and your performance system leads. We can help. And so encourage you to, start that conversation. There's a lot of power on that tip of that iceberg. So the last thing I want to point out is I covered a lot of tips and tricks. We have a lot of videos in Milo. So if you want to learn more, you can reach out to me. You can also just go under Milo and search under the keyword video, and all my video lists will come out. You can even search on dashboards to learn more. So that's it for today. I know we went over 4 minutes, so appreciate the time. Again, send in your questions and appreciate you attending today. Take care. Bye-bye.